So the next thing we're going to talk about here is going to be crafting. Now, a lot of people had some questions. So I'm going to go over fuse and craft and how this whole thing works. I think it's really important that a lot of people understand this. And this is the best way to acquire skills as well as blessing stones. And on top of that, it's one of the best ways to also acquire SSR weapons for characters that are hunters, okay? So let's start off with fuse and go over this whole scenario. So first off, fusing, you can do two things. Number one, you can get yourself skill runes, which are fragments. You can get skill rune epics as well as legendaries and as well as blessing stones, okay? So these powders, I don't know if you guys noticed in the last like couple minutes, when you do the dragon fight, so power of destruction mode, it drops these powders, okay? These can also be purchased from the store if you do the weapon material exchange section. So these powders are super important because they actually will summon blessing stones for you. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and fuse. They do take a lot of gold. So for free-to-play players, this is a long-term investment. You're not going to be able to do this right away. So I'm going to go simple fuse here and show you guys how this works, okay? So we'll craft 2 of them, fuse these up. You guys will see now 2 stones will pop up. Okay, so this one here, Kasaka Steel Scales. Your damage decreased by 6%. This one here is Tenacity. We already have this, so that's good. That means you get a dupe. Now, anytime you get a dupe, what you'll end up doing is you go down to the epic section here, and you'll simple fuse, well, not simple fuse, but you'll be able to put your dupes in there. You guys can see I only have 1 dupe, so I need 2 more in order to try to get myself a very successful rate at 35% for an epic version of one of these skills. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, once you get the epic version, you can then eventually go to legendary versions and get legendary versions of each of these ones as well too. So these are very, very important. Once you hit the level 50 mark, you're going to be able to actually put on 2 blessing stones. So you can have the revival one plus a DPS one, or DPS ones all around the board. And that's how that works. So this is essentially how blessing stones are built. Now I'm going to show you guys my blessing stones. Actually, you know what? We go to the codex. The codex has a better location for all of them. Here we go. Codex. So where's blessing stones? Here we go. So you guys can see what each one of these does, right? The only epic one I have, for example, is Wolf Assassin, which does more damage on non-boss monsters by 9%. So as you get them, you guys can see what they all do and just kind of go through each one and kind of explore them and see which ones you're aiming for, right? So these are going to be huge ones for your DPS increase and survivability. So that's how this right here works, okay? This is blessing stones in a nutshell. So make sure you guys are in fact going into the shop. If you look at the shop here, right here. And if you look at the exchange shop, there's a section where you can actually change for these, okay? So there, I think it's under the weapon. Is it under here? Let me just double check. No, it's under the weapon material one, I think. There we go. Okay, so you want to definitely go for these, and we'll talk about these in a couple seconds. And right here, these ones. Now, these right here drop from, I believe, SR weapons. Okay, so you got to actually salvage SR weapons to get these ones. So they are a little bit more pricey, and you're not going to get these for quite some time. For now, you're just going to be focusing on the rare stuff. But later on, when you actually dupe out or max out your SR weapons, you'll be able to get these fragments from salvaging those weapons. Okay, so very important to note that. Now, that takes care of that portion of it. Now, for skills, let's go back. For skill fragments, you're going to need these right here called rune fragments. These ones you can farm in either the gates, in skill runes. When you open up those chests, you got to think you get 1 daily. And then you can also exchange these in the coin exchange shop in the same spot I just showed you, okay? 100 of these will give you guys a chance to get yourself a skill. 2% for epic. They're mostly going to be blues, unfortunately. And then you take your dupes that you don't need anymore, put them in here. And then you can then use these now to go for a higher end epic and then eventually push that to legendaries as well, okay? So just so you guys are aware, the legendary skills, I believe, gives you plus 3 or 4 points to the skill, and the epic ones give you plus 2, if I recall, okay? So that's how that works, all right? So that's how crafting works for that. Now, moving on to the actual, sorry, that's how fusing works. Moving on to crafting. Now, this is important, okay? This is where you're going to find all of your crafting abilities for skill scrolls right here. You guys can see some higher end enhancement chips, part 2, as well as any event things that you can cast. So in this case, the crafting for Choi's weapon is available for the next 18 days, and this can be found in the dice shop, okay? Just so everyone's on the same page on where to find these. In the special dice section here, this is where you get these fragments. So let me collect this. So the way this works is you want to roll on all the corners as much as you possibly can, and every time you go to start, you get yourself 5 copies of it, okay? So I'll roll once. 1, 2. There you guys go. Got that character. Boom. Done. So this is, you need 100 of these to move on. I've got, what, 20 days left? 18 days left. So I think I've got 2 copies so far from this. The first copy, after 5 full rotations of this, gives you a free version of it, okay? So make sure you collect that. Now, back to crafting. The main thing people want to know about, though, in crafting is going to be right over here. Okay, how do you get SSR weapons and which ones to choose from? So let me go through this. It's a little important here. Sorry, 2 hours of talking, I get thirsty. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so who do you go for first? So my first choice would be simply 2 units. You either go for Emma, right? Because she's one of the best units in the game. And you can see what it does here. Increases damage dealt to targets affected by break effect by 4%. If you're going to be using her, you're going to be breaking a lot. When heat absorption activates, the user's damage dealt is also increased by 1.5, stacking up to 2 times. Extremely, extremely powerful weapon, by the way. So this will be choice number 1 for anyone who plans to use her. Choi, you're going to get for free, so I'm not going to add him into the list, but he would be up there as well. And then also, I really like Lim's weapon here. Increases the dark damage by 4% because he's a dark unit. When they use basic attack within 10 seconds, you also have, after using quick attack Typhoon Fire, it increases your attack by 6% for 30 seconds, stacking up to 12 times. This happens all the freaking time, guys. So this is a very powerful weapon. You at least want 1 copy of it. I'm working on actually maxing this out because it'll push more damage for him and also increase his break abilities and overall damage in general, right? So this is a very, very powerful one to go with. So that's 1 and 2. And the other one that's really good, to be honest, is going to be Eternal Slumber here for Min, because of his abilities to give you guys the Heavenly Blessing. So Heavenly Blessing, the user and the team members additional damage increased by 4% for 16 seconds. Heavenly Blessing gets cast quite often, so you absolutely want this. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then the 4th one, I'd probably say either CO or Byaka, depending who you use. Both of these are very good. So this increases his light damage. When attacking a target with white flames, increases the user defense by 5% for 20 seconds. Remember, all of his damage scales off of defense. So it makes him tankier and do more damage as well too. So you absolutely want to make sure you have this on him if you plan to use him. And then CO's is also really good too. Increases the critical hit damage by 5% for her. She crits all the time, by the way. When the user uses Water Dragon Rush, Lightning Kick, heavy attack Water Dragon Rush, or heavy attack Lightning Kick, increases crit hit damage by 1%, stacking up to 20 times. You can get her crit damage up to 25% more. Okay, so that's what you want to use right there for her. So those are the top, I'd say, top 5 units to go for. I mean, I don't really use Donsu very much, but you guys can see here, increases basic skill damage. And this is why I was saying anybody who uses him, you want to use the basic skill artifacts, because that's most of his damage is coming from. Plus you can see here it actually works really well with his SSR weapon as well, but I wouldn't prioritize that. Wouldn't prioritize Wu's either. I'm not a big fan of him personally. And then also for Bora Lee here, it's actually not bad, but also it's just she's too reliant on crit and crit damage in her circles. I'm just not a big fan of her setup either. So that's what I would do. I would go number 1 Emma, number 2 Lim, number 3 Min, number 4 either Byac or CO, your choice on which one. I think CO's is personally better still, but Byac is not bad because of his break abilities. Choi you get for free, so I mean he's high up there as well too. And then the rest, it's up to you, whichever way you want to go. All right. She does have good crit. The problem is she's too reliant on her circle. I'm not a big fan of hers, and her animations and her foxes are too slow. I'm not saying she's bad. I think she's a good unit, but I'm like, I have her at A3, so I do use her. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not overall like committed to her as a damage dealer. I've been watching her damage overall with like other sets, and I'm not a huge fan. Okay, so there you guys go. That's the crafting system in a nutshell. Just want to show you guys how that works, and that we'll move on from there.